Hello again YouTube, Mad Dog here, welcome back to my channel. So as you can see, back up in the woods, another beautiful day outdoors. In this little video I'm going to be showing you guys and lasses how to make an improvised alternate version of the figure 4 deadfall trap with a different type of trigger. This is packable, pre-made, and you can carry several of these in your kit whilst on the trail or if you're hunting. Stay tuned. Welcome back. So I'm going to quickly show you guys and lasses around this simple trap. It's very easy to make and you can make several of them, so it's handy to pre-make these, put them in your loadout, your Bergen, your rucksack, if you're going on the trail, if you're hunting, or if you are anticipating being in a longer term survival situation. So what we've got going on here is two pieces of wood, one with a chamfer, a rough 45-degree chamfer on one end. You can make these as large or as small as you need, depending on the type of quarry you're aiming to catch. There's a hole at one end, and around 3/4 of the way up I've drilled through and put a simple coach bolt through to the support piece of wood. I'll demonstrate all this being used in a moment, and allowing that bolt to swivel, I've locked it off with two locking nuts there and a washer. There's also a washer in between the two pieces of wood which allows it to spin and move freely. Okay, so basically the idea behind this is very similar to the figure 4 standard deadfall trap. So I have a support piece which I've just chamfered off here on the end to go into the ground. I've driven in a small tack or nail and the swivel joint at the top there. Now the next piece, or the key piece of this trap, is the actual trigger mechanism, which is where the figure 4 trap, the original figure 4 trap, is somewhat different to this. The original one, as we all know, uses different notches to support your final piece, your trigger mechanism. In this case we're going to use a piece of wire, and that consists of a straight piece of wire. I've sharpened one end so I can attach my bait onto the end, and then approximately halfway down this I've gone ahead and bent in using pliers and a vise a loop, which is basically a closed loop which will sit on the tack on the support arm. I'll show you it set up, it'll make more sense as we go along. Then at the other end we have, at approximately 90 degrees to that upright bend, turn it 90 degrees, we have this arrangement. So this simple up and across bend will become your trigger mechanism that seats in the hole of your load supporting bar. So just quickly, do bear with me, it will make sense as I get into this. So as we're looking at the trap, your load will sit on top here, this will be on the ground, your supporting bar, and then your wire will go through the hole that we drilled and then come around the front of that tack. So that's the basic setup that you can see there. Quite simple, quite straightforward. In my case, an admission from the start, this wire could have done with being a lot longer so that the bait is set further into the trap, so the creature that you intend to catch hasn't got enough time to escape the falling trap, if that makes sense. So what I'm going to do now is get down onto the ground here between these two trees which make an ideal pathway or run for your quarry, and get this set up. Just quickly demonstrate it. This is just a demo, it isn't a trap that I would personally carry and try and use because I've made it too light duty. This could have done with being a square section if I was going to remake this for real. The bait stick could have been ideally be a lot longer. and the load bearing piece of wood could also do with being made out of something more substantial. So I'll pan you down onto the ground now and we'll set it up and I'll show you it working. At least you get the idea of the method behind this. Stay with me. Okay, for this we're going to need a couple of stakes. I've sharpened both ends, smoothed them off, made it nice and smooth, chamfered the tops because we're going to drive these into the ground either side of our deadfall trap, which in this case is an old piece of oak. Bearing in mind, guys and lasses, your load has to be at least 5 times the weight of the size of the creature you intend to catch, so that you really do crush down on that critter, and basically you're aiming to suffocate it, not to completely destroy it. So we're going to drag this load across our intended fall area, which is in my case between these two saplings, because it's an ideal rat run for your intended creatures. So if we're going to have that as our guillotine trap, we're going to then take our stakes and just roughly drive in the stakes either side of this log. Now, just a quick footnote. I was asked a while ago, why do bushcrafters always chamfer the ends of their tent pegs, their toggles, or their stakes, whatever you're using? Well, the answer is simple. If you chamfer the top of anything that you're going to drive into the ground, then that reduces the chance of your wood splitting out on you. It's as simple as that. So just chamfer the ends off anything, tent pegs, or in this case a couple of guide pieces of wood for the trap. Chamfer the ends off. It stops the wood from splitting out on you and potentially causing you to have to start again searching for another piece of material. So let's get back to it. Okay, so that now will act as a guide for our deadfall trap load, in this case an old piece of oak, to fall neatly into the intended area. Okay, so we're down by the business end of the trap and we're going to try and set this up now. So we're going to take our improvised figure 4 deadfall trap, put the wire through the hole and set the trap temporarily just by hand, just rough like that, and then we're going to try and balance the load onto the end of this. It's a bit fickle, but once it's set, it's a good trap. Oh. Like so. I'm going to bring this in a little ways, and then what we would do is we would then take our bait. In this case, I've pre-bored a hole through a almond nut here. Place that onto your bait trigger, and then what we can do is then we can finely tune the sensitivity of that trigger, which I'll show you right now. Okay, so I've brought you back to the opposite angle, the other side of this setup. So as you can see just here, the little tack holds the loop into place. The load is pressing down and holding the bent wire into position, and the bait is on the end of the trigger. So to make this really sensitive, we can then go ahead and just lower the trip wire, so it's really on a knife's edge, a hair trigger so to speak, so that any creature or critter that comes along and tries to take that nut obviously will activate the trap. So here's the little creature, and he's going to come along and take that, causing the trap to activate. Most of the equipment flies away from the trap, which is also what we need, and the deadfall comes crashing down. So I'll just show you a couple of close-ups of this, and then I want to do a bit of a shout out and a mention as to where I got this idea from. I have stolen this idea, to be honest. It isn't one that I've come up with, but I thought I'd share it as it is very packable. It's something you can pre-make at home, and for my money, that's passive hunting. I do like to have traps on or around me, or the ability to make them, so that if I am in a situation where I do have to procure food, then I can make many traps. The more traps you make, the better your chances of actually getting meat is. So I do like passive hunting. So stay with me, I'll do you a close-up of that and give the shout out. Okay, so in closing, this little trap, I really do like this. It is, as you can see, very sensitive, but it's very packable. That's what I love about this, you know, and they're easy to make. You could make yourself easily a dozen of these, put them in your bag, in your rucksack, so when you're out on your trails with some good bait and some good knowledge of where your local game trails are, you're going to get yourself some meat with these. Now the shout out, I stole this idea. I'm not going to claim that this is mine, it isn't. I got this idea from Melk, my good mate Melk, over at JJR Survival. I will leave a link for his channel in the description box below. If you want to know anything about trapping, bushcraft survival trapping, he's the guy to go and see. Over the years, I mean, I've followed Melk now on his channel for probably getting on for 10 years, somewhere around there, and he's done literally hundreds of videos on different types of traps, snares, you name it, bushcraft trapping, he's got it covered, old and new. He's a good knowledgeable fella. He's also an author. He does produce books which he sells on Amazon. I think he's done like about, I don't know, probably getting on for a dozen different books now, from basic bushcraft kit, doing it on the cheap sort of thing, you know, budget friendly bushcraft kit, through to his obviously trapping and hunting series. I do recommend checking Malk out. He's a great fella, down to earth, just how I like it, you know. What you see is what you get, and yeah, he's a knowledgeable fella. So that's JJR Survival. I do recommend him. That's who I stole this idea from. I hope he doesn't mind me. I'm sure he won't mind me re-showing this. My channel's a lot smaller than his, so I'm sure he won't mind. But if you are interested in traps, snares and hunting, go check his channel out. It's well worth a visit. I do like this one. I'm going to improve on this and make a better, more practical, usable version. And that being said, before I close, don't forget, over here in the UK, unless you are in a true survival situation, these are illegal. They're illegal to use, they're illegal to leave set. So once you've finished experimenting, never leave them set, put them away, make sure they're disarmed, and only ever use this type of thing if you are in a true emergency survival situation, you know, because these are also indiscriminate. So that being said, it doesn't distinguish between what types of creature you're going to catch with this. It may be a hedgehog, it may be a domestic animal, you know, somebody's pet even. You know, you don't want to be breaking the law and doing something unethical and bad, basically, just for the sake of practicing when you don't need to actually use it. But it's worth learning, in my opinion, because if you do ever find yourself in a situation, it's nice to know that you can if you need to. So on that note, I'm going to close. Thank you all very much for your continued support and watching as always, and until next time, which won't be long, Mad Dog signing off. Yeah.